thing to make it as number one. A lot of these things are taken for granted. And I heard this week people pointed out, I knew when I left, I won't name the neighboring town, and came into Madison because the roads were clear, ready to go when I came into Madison. And it's the work of our Public Works under the direction of Ken O'Brien that makes it all happen. He was scheduled, I think, to be here about a year ago and had to cancel out because of a storm. So Ken, welcome, and let's, I'm actually
Good morning, and thank you for having me the opportunity to come and speak to you all. I just want to talk to you a little bit about myself personally, my resume, and what I do with the Department of Public Works, and how I ended up in Madison, New Jersey. The first time I came to Madison, New Jersey, my father used to take us to a place called Madison NJ DPW. And I didn't even know what that was until I was about 25 years old, and I realized we would come down to Sam Gordon's, which was called Madison NJ, and that's where we bought our refrigerators and dryers and washing machines. But that was what we knew it as, Madison NJ. Because I grew up in Morris Plains, and that was like the place you went to when you needed something. So I grew up in Morris Plains. I have a family that was about public service. My father was a firefighter. He was also a volunteer firefighter in Morris Plains. My mother took a part-time job. She worked for a law firm in Morristown, and she started working for the court system as a court clerk in Morris Plains. Became the first full-time court clerk after many years. And so all my brothers, I was on an ambulance squad. My brothers were on the fire department. So everybody kind of did a little bit of service. And after I got out of college, I went into an operations division in Morris Township as an equipment operator. And then my career just kind of took off, and I ended up in Madison. I was working in Mendham, and an opportunity came up in Madison to kind of change things in the direction of the Department of Public Works, become a little bit more user-friendly, work for the town in a little bit different way, work a little bit smarter, bring some new technology in, and those are some of the things that I've implemented and we continue to do today. If you noticed, for those of you who live in Madison, we'll talk about this last snowstorm. We were out salting the roads and plowing. That next morning when we got back into work, we went from salting and plowing operations right back into leaf collection. And that's because we have a couple of trucks now that go, we take the salters off them in 5 minutes and we put a big bucket on the back of it and we go right back into operations. At one time, it was very common in a lot of departments that, okay, they did snow, then there was a couple day break, and then they did leaves, and then there was a couple day break, get ready for snowstorm. We don't do that anymore. I also have the guys, we have a kind of a schedule where when I know it's gonna be snowing or we're gonna be salting, I bring the department in a few guys at 4 o'clock in the morning to get the equipment ready. So when the majority of the workforce shows up at 7 o'clock, it's boom, we're going out on the road. And that's how I try to manage, and that's what I bring to Madison. And that's my philosophy in management, that we cannot be like the part of the organization that doesn't perform. And so my idea when I came here was, I worked with the police department and the fire department. There was a lack of communication between the departments. Everyone wasn't always on the same page. So I talked to the police chief weekly, I talked to the fire chief, OEM coordinator. We do special events. When we do the Christmas parade, there's a security detail now that the Department of Public Works is for. And if you notice the placement of some very large vehicles and some dump trucks, that's for security at the parade. That didn't happen before. Because my feeling has always been, it may not be a security threat, but also you could have someone have a diabetic shock or have some kind of problem. And if the back of the parade isn't protected by big dump trucks, it's very possible you could have that. And so we are part of the organization. While you may not see us around a lot, we do all those things. Bottle Hill Day, I know some of you recognize me because I'm the guy that comes by the booth at 5 o'clock and says, okay guys, let's go. Start cleaning it up, right? Because that's a big operation for us and we're very involved in it. And so that operation starts for us. We do a lot. For Bottle Hill Day, we start around 4 o'clock in the morning. And we're doing some security measures at 4 o'clock, and then by 6:30, 7:30, the vendors start showing up and start doing it. And then later that night, we go back and put everything back into place that we took out. So my job is here is to kind of facilitate what we want to do here and what Madison wants to be. And I'm just going to go through a couple of things that we do. So our mechanical services department, we maintain 150 pieces of equipment. So we're responsible for the maintenance of the fire trucks, the ambulance, police vehicles, library, all the borough vehicles, borough trucks. And we have probably the best mechanical fleet that I've dealt with these mechanics. They do welding, they do fabrication. We send very little out. And when we send something out now, we send, instead of dropping the truck off at a transmission shop, we now take the transmission out ourselves, get a newer transmission or rebuild one and put it in ourselves. That's a change of plan for Madison Public Works. So what that does is there's no labor for us paying out someone else to do it. We do it in-house. We try to do every job we can now in-house. I try to bring as much in-house to do it. Our road department is, you'll see ourselves doing patching and lines, everything you can imagine that we do, okay? So when you contact us, you have the first interaction is with the office staff at the Department of Public Works, right? We have a mailbox, and then it gets sent out to various departments. And those various departments are, like plowing and leaf collection, tree planting, sidewalks, line painting, signs. We have 55 miles of road. Now we double that when it comes to snow plowing. So that's 55 miles of road, but then we snow plow each road up and down a couple times. So we probably plow about 140 miles of road each storm. And so it doesn't seem like a lot, but you have a lot of lane miles. And lane miles matter, and that's how many lane miles we take care of in town, along with everything else. And as I've been here, we've gone from an organization, and I can say this without any reservation, that was stuck in tradition and moving forward into the new technology, into the new world. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the new tradition, but in order to be a whole organization and competitive in this environment, we needed to move forward. And we're going there. We're going there. The freight train is going, you know. My job is to drive the freight train, and we're going there. Do we have a few hiccups along the way? No doubt. I couldn't stand here today and tell you that we haven't made a few mistakes, and I haven't made a few mistakes along the way. But we're trying every day, and I'm bringing employees in and sending them to schools that they never went to before in order to learn new technology and better ways to do everything. We're buying equipment now, more user-friendly equipment. We're not buying traditional type dump trucks or traditional type machines. We're gonna buy a machine now where you can take the bucket off and you can haul salt with it, load salt trucks, you can lift leaves with it the next day, all different attachments. That's a new kind of concept for some Department of Public Works. Our parks department is a very good parks department. I have this couple of those guys, they're on their way to Rutgers University. For the last 2 years, they've been involved in this 40-hour ballpark maintenance thing, and that's something that they didn't do. And so we talk about drainage. It looks like it's a very easy thing to do, but when I start here, we were dragging the fields the same way and doing it. And so now we're doing things a little bit differently. We're trying to regrade the fields, right? We want them to drain off and stuff. We can't just go out there and drive around in a circle and make it look good for the league. We're part of the process. I go to recreation meetings on occasion and talk to the recreation departments and the various sports people and just talk about what's going on in the fields and stuff like that. It's something I'm aware of. We're seeding the fields, we're treating them. I work with Zach Ellis hand in hand. Zach and I partner on a lot of jobs every day to make sure that we're working on this field, that it's going to be seeded, and this one's going to be treated, and do that because the Madison fields get a lot of use. We have a very active youth here. The ice skating rink, I see Mr. Harapunis is here, right? So we work on that. The reason it's not flooded right now is because I'm looking at the temperatures for the next week. So I see that it's going to be above freezing. It's going to be 50 on Saturday, 50 on Sunday, or something like that. I don't want to flood. I've been asked 3 times why it's not flooded yet, because we pay for that water that floods it, right? So that is big, and now we have evaporation. So if I flood it today in hopes it's gonna freeze next week, I'm gonna be flooding it again next week. And all that does is run our well water. So I watch the temperature, and as soon as I see we're gonna get cold weather during the day, not just at night, but during the day, then we'll open the valve and we'll flood the ice skating rink. That's the kind of things we do. At one time, Madison Public Works used to go over there, turn the valve open, let it run, and then just keep filling it. It's not my style. I'm not a fan of that. Speaking of the water department, real quickly, we use a lot of water here in Madison. We pump every day about 1.5 million gallons. A day like today, schools are in session. They're one of our biggest users of water. Schools are in session, so we're going to pump about 1.2, 1.5 million gallons of water. Everybody's in town. In the summertime, that now balloons to 3.5, almost 3.7 million gallons of water. Wow. The only difference between that is pools and sprinkler systems. So you're watering your lawns with drinking water, what I call it, right? So you got to remember that. And so we pump, millions of gallons of water, and we do go around and we'll knock on your door, leave you a flyer on occasion if we see water running down the street or your sprinkler head shooting out or something like that. It happens on occasion, maybe you hit it with a lawnmower or something like that, because we don't really want to see that. I myself am not a fan of overwatering, and I believe that today's technology, you can have a very good, nice, healthy green lawn and probably water 15 minutes every 3 or 4 days and it will be fine. But that's all drinking water you're watering with. And so, you know, we pump our own water, and our wells are about 100 feet, 150 feet deep. They vary in town. And we treat it, and then we test it. People have had some questions lately about our testing. Our water gets tested every Tuesday. We take samples from 3 different locations in town. Every Tuesday, we take them to a lab. And then by Thursday, if there's a problem, which there very seldom is, I think only once in the last 3 years, we get a little hiccup and something comes back, and that hiccup was where they took it from. Someone had put a cleaning solution at the place we took the test from, and some of it got into that one thing. So then we have a little testing procedure, but that happens. This is what we call, when we have a water main break. So when a water main break happens, usually the ground shifts. And what happens is that water main either goes up a little bit with the frost or down a little bit. And it's almost like a clean break. So what you're seeing there is what we call a Band-Aid. That sleeve, once we get the water shut down, that's why you'll see we shut the water down. We never totally shut the water down when we're doing these Band-Aids, because we want water pressure coming out. So when you're in the hole, you're getting sprayed in your face, and we've got old rags we put on there as much as we can. We slide the sleeve over one side, slide it over the other, and then tighten it down. So the crack remains, but that Band-Aid is what's there, and we think that Band-Aid will probably last longer than the pipe itself. And so it snugs up. By keeping the water on, we don't have to worry about any debris getting in the water line or anything like that. And very seldom will you get some brown water. On occasion you will. That brown water, it's only kind of grit. But that is, then we just cover the hole back up. We put a marker tape in there so that if it had a problem, about 2 feet above it, you'll see orange tape, and they'll know that it was repaired. And then we backfill the hole. That's kind of what it looks like right there. You know, usually it is. And, some years, if you remember 2 years ago, we had a very, very cold time. Very cold. We had 9-degree days for a couple days. It was very, very cold. We had about 7 water main breaks in that whole winter span. That was very unusual for Madison Public Works. I think we've had 1 maybe this year, and that's generally from the ground shifting. Madison has a high water table, so when the ground starts to freeze a little bit, it shifts, the pipes move a little bit, and they can only take so much of that before a crack happens. And then we're in charge of the sewer department. That is a sewer pump. That pump right there is about 35 feet. It's in the Candlewood Station. That's about 35 feet below ground. All the sewers in Madison are on gravity. They come into our sewer stations, and we pump them, and we go into a main line that goes into Chatham, which we have a joint station with Chatham that we treat the sewage. And those are what a typical sewer pump looks like. It's completely enclosed. It's got a big thing on the bottom. It hooks in and pumps everything. And we have 7 of those stations around town. Some of them you won't know, but that's an actual, you're underground there, that station, about 30 feet underground. And there's actually ladders there and, you know, safety equipment for the guys. But what you see above, like if you go down Treadwheel Road, if any of you walk on Treadwheel Lane, you'll see a couple of metal boxes. One looks like this and one looks like that. There's a whole underground station there with ladders and lights and a heater and, you know, a little workbench and everything underground. Yep, so that's how that works. So I think we should maybe talk about if there's any questions or answers. Here's a few things we've done. Recently, the tornado response. So let me just tell you a little bit about that. I've been in public works for 33 years, and I've never dealt with a tornado before. I've dealt with hurricanes and flooding and Floyd and Sandy and every kind of snowstorm you could possibly imagine. So when the police department called me, I think it was around, I don't even know, by 1:30 or something like that. Then my guys started calling me. Some of my employees live in Madison. They called me, and so I knew something bad had happened right away. As I came in and we were bringing more manpower in, working with the police department, the fire department was out. We didn't realize, myself and the department heads, that we'd actually had a tornado until about daybreak. Now, when I went to bed that night, I knew, looking at the radar, we were gonna get some bad thunderstorms. Like there was this line coming through, and I was like, we're gonna have a tree come down. The odds are, the ground's wet, we're probably gonna have a tree come down. But as daybreak came, and we were going around town, and realized, you know, all of a sudden I'm talking to a couple of the other department heads, And a couple of the police officers were like, wow, there's a lot of damage here, there's nothing up on Fairwoods, and there's nothing that, you know. And then we drive down by Prospect Place, and we look in the woods, and every tree is just ripped right out of the ground. And I thought to myself, around daybreak, you know, I was like, well, this is more than just thunderstorms. But so as you're getting into it, and we're closing roads off, and we're finding stuff happen, you don't really realize that. And we had a road up here called Bramnick Road. So I'm working with the fire chief and the police lieutenant, and we're trying to go around and, you know, make a list of what's happening in town, where our first response is gonna be. So I'm driving around my pickup truck, and I go up Bramnick Road to take a look, and I get halfway up the road, and there's a big tree across the road, and the road is completely blocked. So I realized then that if we have a medical call or a fire call, there is no way to get up to those houses. And during the storm, I don't know if they have power or not have power. So I immediately call us. So where we are, we all of a sudden, I have to take the heavy equipment and the guys with the chainsaws and bring them over to Bramnick Road just to open it up, make enough for the fire trucks and myself to get through. We open it up, we cut it, throw it off to the side, and keep going. It's kind of like a triage is what we do, because we don't want to have those houses blocked. You know, when I call the fire chief and I say, hey, make sure that your guys know this road's completely blocked, and he comes over and like tells them so that if something happens, it's going to be, you know, all hands. So we do that. We triage it, then we go around and we start working on it. And then we have interlocal agreements with another water utility, so that if we ever had a catastrophic failure, we'd be able to do it. That is Prospect Place. We'd be able to fully give everybody water. That's a typical plowing of snow. So when I came here in Madison, the snow plowing operation was done a little bit different. I'm gonna tell you, it was probably done a little bit more traditional, where you go plow that side, you go plow over by where you live, you go plow over by where you live. And so I switched that around a little bit, right? I put the town into what we call 4 quadrants, like this. I have trucks detailed in each quadrant, and then you can't leave that quadrant until you check with me to see if it's okay to leave that quadrant. There's no more saying, hey, does your street need to be done, or do you need help, or anything like that. And so, if I was gonna pat myself on the back here, I would say that our snow removal has gone a long way, and I get compliments on it quite a bit. No doubt we make mistakes, and that's gonna happen. We do make mistakes and things happen, but one of the things I'm really care about is that we do it in a fashion where we're going around and we're working at it on a constant basis. So when you get done with your snow plowing around, I probably send you back and go check your intersections and make sure they're clean. And that's the way I've always done it. And towns sometimes get kind of caught up a little bit where, okay, just go do that section, that section. Then what would happen would be, I would be on my way home, and the police department would call me and say, some, you know, Lewanica Place is not plowed. And I'd be like, what? You know, well, he was supposed to do it. Well, he was supposed to do it. Well, I thought he was gonna do it for me. Or, you know, so we don't have that anymore. And because we detail everybody out, we put a certain amount of trucks in certain sections, we put salt trucks in those sections, so now we're salting and plowing at the same time. So as we get done plowing a street, we have a big salt truck. This is new to Madison. This didn't happen a few years ago. That road then gets salted as we're going along. That truck catches up. When I came here, they would plow the whole town, send everyone down, get in the salt trucks, and start salting the town, okay? My feeling was, we just gotta keep going, keep that train going just like this and doing it. It's a safer environment for everybody. That's a typical picture of us, how we're loading one of the salt trucks. That's our roll-off truck. That's a sewer or water repair. And then we work, that old tractor, we do a couple things. There's a meadow down at the MRC area for the community garden club, and they had a big meadow down there. We go down there and mow it once in a while and turn it over and work with the community garden on a semi-regular basis every couple of days or every couple of years, and try to clean that up for them. You know, cut all the weeds and everything down. All right. How about some questions? I don't see any hands raised, so we're good. Thank you. Yes, sir.
What happens to all the leaves you pick up?
So the leaves we're picking up, we store them at the Department of Public Works, and we have a contract that goes out every year. And the last few years, a company called Nature's Choice has gotten that contract, and they're over in the other side of Chatham Township, and they bring them in there and they mulch them and reuse them because it's recycled. The leaves in New Jersey are required under the DP laws to recycle your leaves. right? We can't burn them in the backyards anymore. Unless you're over the border of Pennsylvania. But anyway, so they go to this company and they redo them all. And that's what, you know, they use it for mulch and different products and stuff and cover. Yes, ma'am?
So first, thank you, because
Thank
you
you.
really, I've noticed the difference. Most of us are residents of here, but I've noticed the difference, so thank you. And when do you sleep?
It's not his contract.
That's not. So when I'm laying in bed sometimes and my phone rings and it's the mayor, I go, oh. Oh. He doesn't sleep either.
So two things. First of all, Public Works has really been great about helping us maintain all around the museum. So I just want to say thank you to all of that. But secondly, I have a question about brining versus salt. And I know we did brining at one point, and now we're doing salt, and I don't know what.
Correct. So this
What's
is gonna,
better
do I have like 5
for the
minutes, right?
environment?
Do I have 5 minutes?
You got two.
2 minutes. Okay, so this is a little bit technical. The governor and I see have different ideas on brining.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So,
You're both friends.
I got into brining and what we call salt pasting 20 years ago. I've researched it, I've worked with other public works professionals from around the country and Canada on salting and brining. What brine does, when you see people putting ground down, the idea of brining, this is what I know as a professional and what has worked. When you brine, the road temperature is very cold. So you put brine down. That builds a thermal barrier between the road and the asphalt. So that when you are plowing, you kind of get scraped down, get some black, because you have a thermal barrier between the asphalt, which is below freezing, and the snow that's sitting on top of it. So you have that like little bit of scraping. That's what brine does. If you're brining and it's above freezing and that snow comes down, the brine gets washed off the road. What I do is what you call salt pasting. I'm mixing brine, and this is a new technology to Madison, brine and salt together. It's almost like a little bit of an Elmer the glue, stuff like that. What that does, and you'll see one of our newer trucks, the salt is not in the middle anymore. I've moved the salters over to the left side, and that is because I don't need you to have traction on the area where cars are parked. You need to have traction near the WL line. That salt, what I call salt paste, which is salt and brine mixed together, lays down a thick layer of salt. That will give you your traction. When you get off that train at 6 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock and it's starting to come down, that salt and that paste will give you a little bit of traction and give us time to keep going around town. The brining, I disagree with it, the way it's being done with the state and a few other areas. I just don't think it's effective to do it, and I've never learned to do it that way. Brining to me is taking it where it started, and then all of a sudden it went in a crazy direction.
Do you have any ideas on how to monitor how much salt you put down and where you put it down?
We do,
So there's
we
not
do.
salt water
Yep.
runoff?
Yep, and so I do, all the trucks there, I have it at 900 pounds per lane mile, is what I have it set at, and that is locked out. The drivers cannot control how much salt they put out. I can go online and we can drop it down to 600, depending on the storm. There's a maximum and a minimum for the driver, so I don't want them to be able to do it. When you see that truck years ago, if you go up on Main Street, when you see a county truck come through, and that spinner's going 100 miles an hour and there's salt going out straight, right? Totally ineffective, costing taxpayers thousands of dollars, no need for it. You want that to be coming down, almost like a flow like this, falling on the lane. That's it. So we have older trucks with the salt in the middle. We're slowly but surely moving them over. It's quite a process. You gotta put a conveyor system. But you need to be putting it down in the middle of the road where the WL line is, so you have that traction when you're driving.
Thank you very, very much.